Huzzah! Okay, well we got the Rengar one to load, so that's one that we're gonna go with. Just because it's been kind of wonky. Okay, so close out of match history. Open this up here. Delete this. Let's change this one out. And let's add window capture for match history replay. And there we have it. Okay. So, if we look at the match history replay, we see that you win this game. So we're just going to critique some of the plays that you make overall. When it comes to your runes and masteries, you have lifesteal runes, which lifesteal quintessences, which I'm not sure how I feel about those overall. You have flat AD marks, which makes sense. One mark in armor pen, which is interesting. You usually see that one mark reserved for crit chance or something silly, but 9 of these are probably better overall. Scaling health and scaling MR. So the first thing that I make sense of when I'm looking at this is that you're going to get hit a lot by armor, right? You don't have any flat armor to start off the match with, which tells me that the minions are going to do a lot of damage to you, and also when you're trying to engage an AD champion, it might hurt you as well. For the masteries itself, you go 12, 18, 0, which is fine. I think the cutting decision, when you decide to go instead of hybrid pen, you go for overall cooldown reduction, which allows you to enable your ultimate much quicker. And you go for assassin, so I'm sure you're just trying to get the 2% damage when you're picking people out. And you go for a little bit of the movement speed. For ferocity, you go for 5% AP, which is fine, and then you go for lifesteal as well. So overall, I think this is a pretty interesting build overall, to say the least. So let's hop into the actual game itself and see how it is that you start all of this sweet Rengar skin. You start out with a machete and 3 potions instead of refillable. That's fine. Game goes 35 minutes, which is a bit long. The one thing that we have to think about with this matchup is that you're playing against a Garen. I don't think that the Garen is actually the best jungler, and this is a very weak leash as well. If we think about going for flat AD as opposed to lifesteal, and we see you over to this side, right up here, double ferocious roar. I'm sorry, battle roar, and then we see you almost dying here. Makes me a little bit suspicious as to your lifesteal claims and how valuable it is. You would have died. At this point, you are kind of running around. I'm not quite sure what it is that you're hoping to accomplish because you are very low life. Maybe you're just waiting for your potions to sort of tick, and you should have been popping those a little bit earlier. Double battle roar, smite on the wolves. So think about the amount of time at this point, right? Time is one of the things that I think is particularly interesting when we're looking at League of Legends in particular, because time really helps to influence how much or how little we used it. You're saying that you had changed your mind in terms of the decision to either go back or to go to wolves, and unfortunately the decision to change your mind hurts us in the long run, right? It doesn't allow us to make clear, concise ways to actually move forward with the game. You decide right here to clean out the wolves. I think it would be a better idea if you are concerned about your HP and you're not too worried about Garen ganking you, to instead go for, and I think you're going to go for red and then blue afterwards, which I personally don't think is the best decision overall. I would actually start here, go for red, go for rift, hop over to the Raptors, personally. But if you wanted to go the path that you went for, start here, get the Raptors, and then go for a Rift Scuttle instead. That way you're able to regen up with the Hunter's Machete and your lifesteal that you have through quintessences. And you decide to stay in your jungle. Hopefully you'll start chugging your potions sooner than later. Here we go. We see that, unfortunately, based on your overall HP, there's not a whole lot that you're able to do unless the decision was to go for the Rift Scuttler. I don't think you really... although with Smite you should be able to get this red buff here. But overall I think it would probably be better to go back to base a couple times. And... I mean... maybe there's a way to predict that a Garen is going to flash out of the wall and kill you at your red buff. But if we actually just go back right here, we see that you going for this red buff is probably a risky play overall, just based on your current health pool. And there's not a whole lot that you can do after you get this red buff. So you kind of get cheesed in a way. Overall, I think you probably should utilize the Rift, whether it be on the top side or the bot side, the Rift Scuttler, as a way to rejuvenate, especially if you swear by this lifesteal quintessences. That should be the first thing that you're really thinking of. But yeah, that cheese is a little bit silly. I would go back to your red buff, make sure that he cleared it out so that you get a new timer on it that he will not have. And then from there, just sort of figure out what are the next steps. Think about the champions that we have in this game, right? Think about the champions that have the ability to escape. And we're not talking about Flash. Forget about Flash because I don't think that you've been keeping track of Flash in your head right now. Or if your teammates have been typing out that a champion is Flash. Think about the champions in this current game on the red side. So your blue side, think about the champions on the red side. That have the ability to escape within their kit. Malzahar does not. Ezreal does. Zillion has a little bit of a speed boost. Garen can run away with his decisive strike. And Xin Zhao does not. So what does that tell us about champions that might be easy for you to gank? Well, in my mind, it tells us that mid lane and top lane, if you're to get there without them seeing you or even them seeing you at the last second, with your Bola Strike, especially an empowered Bola Strike, you should be able to suppress them and get pretty good damage on. Unfortunately, your top lane is getting absolutely dominated, and Malzahar is pushed all the way to his tower. So what you should do is try to figure out opportunities to counter gank, anticipating that the Vel'Koz is about to get smacked up by this Garen, which I would only imagine happens. We actually see you sort of looming around mid for this counter gank, so almost right on cue with us. And we're seeing you again. You ward up. The one thing that I'll say right here, so I already sort of set the idea that you should have cleared out the red buff, or at least check to see if it was cleared out. You wasting your one and only ward doesn't seem like the best use of your ward, especially because you're going for blue smite as opposed to trackers. So the chilling smite, overall, an interesting choice. Fine choice. I would probably do the same. I usually do with Rengar. And here you are, sort of running around jungle again. The Garen has a lot of pressure versus you so far in terms of him being there. And at this point, you see the Garen kind of come back. You imagine that he's looming around. Your smite is about to be off cooldown, and you use it here. So one thing that I'll say is, if the next decision that you're making is going for your blue buff, and you've already sort of mentally characterized that, and you thought, what is the next thing that I'm going to do? And you're going for your blue buff next, you should have saved your smite, because if Garen does have vision and the Garen does want to cheese you again, he can, and if it comes down to a smite battle, you don't have smite and he might. So if the next decision is to go for blue, let's just think about saving our smite to protect ourselves from the jungle. You're heading up top, theoretically to gank the Xin Zhao, who is level 7. You don't have any stacks on your overall passive. You go for the Bola Strike, you actually are able to hit it, and the Ignite kills him, which is very good. Good job, Bola Strike. And you decide to head back to base. There was a bit of a pause, you decide to head back to base, and then you make the decision, again, another idea of there's hesitation, there's 10 seconds wasted. You come back to blue, or you don't actually come back to blue. You sort of run around to middle, you sort of loom around, and then you go back to blue. By the time that you go back to blue, lo and behold, Garen. Oh, Garen. Garen. This Garen is the bane of your existence. And it's not just because he's Garen. It's because that you're making decisions that allow any jungler to counter jungle you. And all that comes down to the overall timing and decision making. So if we back this up, we see, let's back it up one more. We see you hang around mid lane, right? So let's think about the Fog of War for the blue side. Okay, so let's back it up one more. We think about, you hesitate, you start to head to blue, and then you head toward mid. And up to this point, you have vision on Garen, right? By the time that Garen disappears, you no longer have vision, you don't have level 6 to initiate. So the decisiveness sort of kicks in. And then you decide to go back to blue buff. Now, insanity, right? Garen flash killed you at red buff. That's a weird oddity that probably won't happen. For the next 30 games you play, that might happen twice, right? So very, very low chance of that happening at all. For this instance, however, knowing that he has a tendency to do that, and he was just on the top side, and Malzahar has disappeared as well into the Fog of War. We don't have any vision of him. We don't have any vision over the wall. And so you're going for blue buff. You're going to kill it. And he comes, harasses you, takes a blue buff, you both level 5, and you have to go back. Let's watch one more sequence to sort of get a little bit of insight as to what it is that we need to figure out in terms of maybe decision making or some choices that you're making overall. Itemization makes sense. You're going for warrior enchant. Perfect. Extra cooldown. Awesome. One thing that I'm not seeing you do, and actually we saw a little bit earlier at red buff, you do as well, is actually holding on to your 5 combo points to empower your abilities. So after you got cheesed by Garen, you came over here, cleared out the raptor camp, and then walked around this way and killed the little minion over here. When you use your last ability on this minion, on the small little dude, you actually use your final and empowered ability. So you might want to save that just as a way to not only sort of clear out other camps, but if you need to fight or if you need to gank, that is a tool that you can use that you otherwise wouldn't have. And we see you running around. You check dragon. So far so good. You're hanging around dragon. You're throwing more bolas. Now it's been warded, and now you're waiting. So I'm trying to think, what is it that you could be doing to help your teammates? Now think about the vision that they either have or don't have. So the likelihood of this bush being warded is actually pretty high if they're looming around Dragon Pit. I don't know overall if it is worth your time to be standing here, because think about the time it'll take if we see Garen appear here. Well, you'd have to run from here, slowly picking up speed, to here, all the way to here. So it might benefit you if your intention is to look out for Vel'Koz mid and counter gank, to instead wait over here, because if we see a magical Garen appear, which we do, all of a sudden, Rengar into action, you use your ultimate, you're running, and Vel'Koz is just running as far away from you as possible. Now, you're level 6 to Garen's level 5. I'm expecting to see you kill this Garen with a sweet combo. By the time you come in, you go for the Malzahar, who is 3 levels above, so forget itemization, forget overall HP. 3 levels above, you are unsuccessful with the gank, and you kill them with the bola. The sniper has returned. So, again, we're thinking about this from the perspective of, what are you trying to do? Because hanging out here doesn't really do a whole lot for you if your intention is to help mid. Because not only did the Vel'Koz not run in your direction, in fact, the Vel'Koz ran away, and by the time that you even got close, so let's back this up again, by the time that you're even remotely close to helping, it would have been too late if he was level 6. So he's already here with invisibility. And then you go. This marker, roughly, you would already be on Garen. Vel'Koz 14. So it takes you almost 10 seconds to physically get there. If we move you here, we literally half that time. Which would mean that, instead of it being at 9:05, if it takes you 5 seconds, and you were waiting here, that would mean that at 9:10, you would be at the Garen, so at, let's wait for it, at this marker, roughly, you would already be on Garen. Vel'Koz combo hits, you hop on top, you have Thunderlords, that's dead Garen. But instead, because of the seconds that we've sort of invested in being further away, even in an area that we're not only further away, but we're potentially warded, you have allowed the Garen to sort of run at your Vel'Koz, spook him a little bit. Malzahar actually could have used Malefic Vision and Nether Grasp as a way to lock in the Vel'Koz. Flashed aggressively when he saw that the Garen was there, set him in place, decisive strike to stun again, ignite, and killed them. Thankfully, Malzahar didn't have the presence of mind to do so, so he lucked out, and the Bola strike eventually killed it. So overall, I would just think about the timing of it all, and think about how many of these seconds actually add up. You know, 5-6 seconds here, 5-6 seconds here, 5-6 seconds here, 5-6 seconds somewhere in this area. All of a sudden, we're already at 30 seconds of the game of 9 minutes and 11 seconds. We're basically at 8 minutes and 40 seconds of the overall game, and where it is that you could have been adding up these little time markers over and over and over again. So there are interesting opportunities. When you think about it from a time perspective, you've already cut in almost 30 seconds of the game itself because of a lack of decisiveness. And then, of course, the second idea here is thinking about levels, thinking about how it is that you can make contributions. If your goal is to get to level 6 so that you can ult into the Knight, I believe it is called, Throw the Hunt, excuse me. Throw the Hunt, if you're waiting for level 6, then you need to spend more time farming and less time ganking. And at this point, the only gank that you actually did was up top at Xin Zhao, which was successful. Thank you, Ignite. So, Naru, that is my pitch to you. I think you did well. Definitely, I think the KDA at the end is absolutely ridiculous from you. What is it that we finished the game at? You finished the game at 21, 6, and 17, so you make a bunch of contributions. Ravenous Hydra, Black Cleaver, Mortal Reminder, Soccer's Blade Lucidity, I think, if my math serves me. You are over your overall cap, or you're just at 44%. Regardless, I think all of these items make sense overall. So good job. Just try to focus on a couple of those little adjustments, I guess we could say, adjustments that you can make, and then we will sort of figure it out from there.